remarkable men. I remember thinking how lightly the words fell from people's mouths. They were speaking of a politician who had given a stirring speech, a performer who had dazzled a crowd. I listened, but something in me resisted. Those men were impressive, yes, but impressive in fireworks way. They flare up, they capture the eye, and then they are gone, leaving behind only the memory of light. I wanted to understand what it truly meant to be remarkable, not in the eyes of the world, but in the deeper sense that touches the very core of what a human being can become. This question followed me through the years, through my studies, and through the countless encounters that shaped my understanding of myself and of others. And it was only when I came across the teachings of a certain man that I began to find my answer. That man, whom I never met in person but whose presence I have felt in every word he left behind, had a way of cutting through the noise. He spoke of the remarkable man not as someone who performs tricks or momentarily impresses, but as someone who possesses a certain quality of mind, a certain inner order that shines through in every aspect of their life. When I first encountered these words, they struck me with the force of a revelation. I had spent so many years searching for something to believe in, and something to guide me through the confusion of modern life. I had read philosophy, psychology, experimented with various practices and systems, but nothing had spoken to me with such clarity as this simple definition. It was not a doctrine or a set of beliefs. It was a description of a way of being, a portrait of a human possibility that I had glimpsed in a few rare individuals but had never been able to name. I began to look back on my life, to sift through my memories of the people I had known, and I started to see them in a new light. There was my grandfather, a man of few words who had worked with his hands his entire life. He never complained, never sought attention, never tried to prove anything to anyone. But when trouble arose, he was the one everyone turned to. His mind was sharp, his judgment sound, and his calmness in a crisis was almost supernatural. He did not lecture or preach, but his example taught me more about restraint and justice than any sermon ever could. I see now that he was one of the remarkable men, though he would have laughed at the very idea. There was a teacher I had in my youth, a woman who had dedicated her life to educating children in a poor and neglected community. She had no resources, no support from the authorities, and no recognition from the wider world. But she had a quality of attention that made every student feel seen, valued, and capable of more than they ever imagined. She never lost her temper, never dismissed a question, and never gave up on a child who was struggling. Her tolerance was not a weakness but a strength, a profound acceptance of human imperfection that inspired those around her to strive for better. She was someone I always admired. Later, when I started studying Gurdjieff's books, I noticed something that I've always seen in that teacher. In one of his books, he pointed out the key traits of a remarkable man. He said that a remarkable man stands out by the resourcefulness of his mind, by his ability to find solutions where others see obstacles, by his capacity to adapt and to think clearly under pressure. He said that this man knows how to be restrained in the manifestations which proceed from his nature, meaning that he does not allow his impulses to run wild, does not let his emotions dictate his actions, but holds himself with a dignity that comes from self-knowledge. He said that this man conducts himself justly and tolerantly towards the weaknesses of others, not because he is weak himself, but because he has looked deeply into his own heart and knows that perfection is not a human condition. After reading his amazing book, my memories began to accumulate, each one adding a layer to my understanding. I started to see that the remarkable man is not a rare creature, not a chosen one, or someone born with extraordinary gifts. He is someone who has done the inner work that most people avoid. He has faced his own weaknesses and has learned to manage them. He has cultivated his mind and has sharpened his ability to think clearly. He has developed the discipline to restrain his impulses, to choose his responses rather than being ruled by them. and he has opened his heart to the failings of others, knowing that he himself is far from perfect. The wise man whose teachings I had discovered did not stop at defining the remarkable man. He went further, explaining that this quality is not a fixed state, but a lifelong practice. It is not something you achieve once and then possess forever. It is something you must renew through constant attention and effort. The resourcefulness of the mind must be exercised, the restraint of nature must be strengthened, and the justice and tolerance towards others must be deepened. This is the work, and it is never finished. I began to apply these principles to my own life, and I found that they changed the way my life was moving. I started to practice restraint, pause before speaking or acting, and to consider whether my response was coming from a place of choice or from a place of compulsion. I started to be more patient with others, to recognize that their weaknesses were no different from mine. The results were profound. I found that I was less anxious, reactive, and less caught up in the drama of my own emotions. I found that my relationships improved. People seemed to trust me more, and I was able to handle difficulties with a calmness that I had never known before. I was not becoming a remarkable man in any dramatic sense, but I was moving in that direction. That was a source of deep satisfaction. What I have come to understand is that the remarkable man is not a destination. He is a direction, a way of living that is open to anyone who chooses it. The qualities that define him are not mysterious or inaccessible. They are the fruits of ordinary human effort, of the daily discipline of self-observation. You can also cultivate resourcefulness by practicing clear thinking and creative problem-solving. Anyone can learn restraint by watching their impulses and choosing to act from a place of awareness. You can develop tolerance by extending compassion to others. These are the things that bring true peace. The obstacle is not a lack of ability, but a lack of will. Most people prefer the comfort of their habits, the security of their opinions, and the familiar territory of their reactions. They do not want to see themselves clearly because that seeing demands change, and change demands effort. But the effort is worth it, and the reward is a life that is richer, deeper, and more meaningful. I think of the people I have encountered who embody these qualities, and I realize that they are not the ones who have achieved fame or power. They are the ones who have quietly done their work, who have raised their families with wisdom, served their communities with integrity, and faced adversity with grace. They are the unsung heroes of everyday life, and they are living among us. The journey of becoming Gurdjieff's remarkable man is to take up the work of self-observation, to practice the art of clear thinking and restrained action, and to open our hearts to the imperfections of others. This is not a grandiose or dramatic task. It is a modest, patient, persistent effort that unfolds over a lifetime. And yet, it is the most important work we can do, because it transforms us from passive victims of our own nature into active participants in our own becoming. As I reflect on the teachings that have guided me, I am filled with a sense of gratitude. The wise man who articulated these ideas may have passed from this world, but his words live on, and they continue to illuminate the path for those who are willing to walk it. I am one of those walkers, and I know that I'm not alone. Countless people like you and me are quietly doing the work, striving to become remarkable in the truest sense. As I close my eyes, I see the faces of those who have shaped me, the quiet heroes of my journey. These faces inspire us to see the world from a different angle and leave the world a better place. I hope you will join me on this path and discover the remarkable man within yourself, waiting to be born.